video game show. It's a video game show. It's not a game show about videos. It's a video game show.
All right, so anyway, the whole point of this was I was going to attempt to start doing weekly video game reviews. Read them if you want. It's oots omnipotent opinion, or don't. It's all gravy. I know some of these games aren't going to be cutting edge, most recent, that kind of thing, but I'm going to review what I play. So without further ado, here's Dawn of War 2. Now, as anyone who listens to the show can attest, I'm not a big fan of RTS games. I'm also the first to admit that I think the Warhammer 40,000 universe is about the greatest setting and story of any background to any game ever made. I mean, hell, I would take 40K, the world of 40K, over Tolkien in a heartbeat. I mean, at least I can pronounce the names, and elves aren't anywhere near as prominent. With that being said, I really enjoyed the first Dawn of War. I still wasn't very into the base building and the resource management, but both were less intense than, say, Warcraft or Starcraft, which is just fine in my book. So when Dawn of War 2 was described, I was pretty much thrilled. More role-playing feel to the game? Bonus. Less resource management? Bonus. No buildings? Bonus. It sounds like a perfect game. And then I started hearing some bad things, like basically the subtle caress of Zeitznich speaking of change and corruption to my only RTS game series that I ever truly enjoyed. And being one who was blessed in the eyes of Gork and Mork, all praises their mighty greenness, I was gifted a copy of Dawn of War 2 in the celebration of my 31st anniversary of my miraculous escape from my 9-month imprisonment in the sweltering depths of the dread Obulet. While that's a harrowing tale indeed, that's a tale for another time. Fundamentally, the gameplay between Dawn of War and Dawn of War 2 are identical. It has the basic standard point-and-click controls that are used for most RTS games. Left-click highlights the units, right-click moves, attacks, and interacts with objects. One of the big differences between Dawn of War 2 and other RTSs is the fact that there is no base building or building management of any kind, and not really any resource management. Troop management is a pretty big difference between the campaign and the multiplayer. The game feels a lot more like a tabletop miniature battle. Strategy is a lot more important than, say, your build order, which is key to most other RTS games. You're working with smaller squads, so your troops are more important. Losing a few can really set you back. Your bosses, which I believe each race has 3, a melee, a support, and a range/sneaky guy. If they die, you can revive them with a health pack in single player, or you spend requisition, which is your resources in multiplayer. Unless you're an Eldar, which are the elves, and then you should just stay dead because it's just better for everyone that way. The maps have a lot more cover and buildings, which it's in your best interest to utilize. Charging blindly forward will usually get you killed unless you have a big enough mob of units to just overwhelm the opposition. It works best, though, to utilize your surroundings, set your long-range guys up in a building, get the high ground behind cover, that kind of thing. Your range squad works the best if they're hiding behind some wall or some barrels for cover. Your troops will definitely thank you for your observance of said cover, as they won't be dead. And I think they would appreciate that. Unless, of course, they're Eldar, and then they don't need cover because they're too busy picking flowers or some rubbish. The resource management of this game, you basically gather strategic points that earn your resources. Maybe, it's called something different, but you know what I mean. And if you want to complain about it, address it to the nearest wall, because it cares about your complaint and lack of correct terms more than I do. And you also have your energy. Now, resources are used to build your units and upgrades, and it's the equivalent of like lumber or Vespene gas or that kind of stuff in most RTS games. All right, and energy is used in addition to resources for upgrades and vehicles. Now, in addition to strategic points in the single player, they're all marked with little star symbols on the map, by the way. There are shrines and some kind of factory thing. These affect the number of uses you have for certain items your characters can carry. And again, this is in single player only. But things like the orbital bombardment, which is self-explanatory, Rosarius, which makes your units invincible for a certain time, drop pods, which reinforcements basically fall from the sky and acting as a giant missile in the process, etc., etc. Now, these shrines and factories, like I said, are only in the single player game, but I really haven't played that close of attention in multiplayer, so I could be wrong there. Single player, the strategic points are more or less act as rally points. You can go there to replenish your guys if you get some of your units killed, that kind of stuff. They're just kind of there for that purpose. I really don't know of any other purpose beyond that. In multiplayer, you basically, it's kind of like a domination where you have so many points, we'll just say 500, and the more of these strategic points you control, the faster the opponent's victory points are going to decline. Now, it's basically, like I said, it's domination. The building management, it's in most RTSs, this is kind of crucial for success or failure. You have to be sure to have enough room to fit everything. You got to make sure that there's a path for your troops to get out. Different buildings for different units. It's all just thirsty anal leakage as far as I'm concerned. All that management just sucks. It's annoying. I don't want it. Never did. Never will. Now, I understand the fundamentalists want the micromanagement and all that. It's related CTAL, which is thirsty anal leakage. I can do without it. Dawn of War 2 fixes all that by just making it go away. You have your base. There it is. How's it going? You can upgrade it, unlock the next tier of units, but you don't got to worry about space, placement, that kind of stuff. You also have power generators that you can build at the different energy points that just increase the amount of energy and speed at which you get it. All good in my book, but if you like micromanagement, this is probably going to be a strike against you. Troop management. There's a big difference here between the solo and the multiplayer. The campaign mode is much more of a role-playing game feel. You have your named units who level, gain skill points, and you get to spend them on 4 stats. Your health, which adds hit points, strength, which adds melee skill and damage, range, which affects the damage and accuracy of your shooting, and will, which is basically your character's mana and mana regeneration. It's called something else, but it's just mana. With each of those, you also have traits that can be unlocked. So for your heavy weapons guy, if you level health enough, you can get wear Terminator armor, which is really sweet armor. If you level your range skill a lot, you have better accuracy and recover. Your assault unit unlock the ability to use different guns if they level up their range, so on and so forth. You get the picture. It's different within each unit. The multiplayer doesn't have that level of depth. You level, it says your guy has gained a level, but you don't really get points to spend, and it's your guy gets tougher, but there's no real development for him. The campaign mode, you only have like 5 or 6 units, and you're only allowed to actually bring 4 with you on any given mission. You have your commander, a tactical squad, which is like your regular squad, a heavy weapons unit, scouts, assault units, which are your jetpack guys, and eventually you get a dreadnought, which is a walking tank for all intents and purposes. Now you can level these guys, spend points on them, and basically develop them as however you see fit. So you want more range guys, just level them up and put up their range stuff. You want your guys to be more melee, put all your guys' stuff in strength, and you'll unlock traits that will allow you to utilize those weapons. So if you want melee and you're putting all your stuff into strength, eventually your tactical unit can use a chainsword and shield or something like that, or a chainsword and bolt pistol, and you get the point. Your troops can die, but you can revive them, and you revive these guys at the strategic points or shrines. Now, the campaign mode does allow for co-op, and I'll tell you, it's sweet. Instead of controlling 4 characters, you can control 2, while your brother in arms over there is controlling the other 2. It basically shares whoever campaign is hosting the game. I gotta say, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was pretty sweet. Chris and I have played this, and we had a blast with it. Less character control is good in my book, because it feels more like you're controlling a character, and it's really good. Give it a whirl. It's a lot of fun. It's just a lot easier. We had no problem flanking the enemy. Other than that, it's pretty much just like the single player campaign mode. Now, multiplayer, you can go up to 6 people. Wish it was more, but that's life. The graphics on the game are amazing. When you zoom all the way in or all the way out, you see your troops slaughtering each other in mass. And, while I enjoy that, if you like to zoom in, I zoom in on my little war boss guy and I watch him decimate my foes. It's pretty sweet because you zoom in, you watch this big giant orc grab the little puny elf, pick him up in his mighty power claw, behead it, and just start, smashing him against rocks on the side. It's just really cool. Now, there's just blood everywhere. It's beautiful. I'm sorry, I got distracted. The units have, unique maneuvers and attacks. Now, they eventually run through them again, but it's not like they all just sit there and do the same chop over and over again. You can really tell they took the time to get this one right. Units aren't swinging at each other from 5 feet away. Even the ranged guys, they stop to reload, swing the gun back up, shoot. The attention to the detail is amazing. All in all, I'm giving Dawn of War 2 a 7 out of 10 for its multiplayer aspect and an 8 out of 10 for the campaign aspect. Multiplayer is fun, still my favorite RTS out there, but only having the 4 races and the lack of depth in the leveling and the gear really disappointed me. I was really looking forward to kind of having that campaign mode, leveling your guys, finding the gear, role-playing feel to it throughout a multiplayer and everything. Now, I understand for online balance, it's, you know, they don't want you to use personal characters, but it wouldn't have been too hard to just add a different feature to the game mode where you can use the characters from, you know, characters you level up and that kind of thing if you want, or if you're playing online in some kind of ranked match, something where you have to just do the normal where you don't get to use the characters and they just have the generic level up. But that really distracted from it. Also, 6 players only isn't really that swift. Most of the RTS games have 8. They should have done the same. Now, the campaign mode is awesome, but you can only be the Space Marines. I wanted to be my orcs. Now, while I like the Space Marines and the story is fantastic, I wanted more choices. I wanted to kind of be like Warcraft or Starcraft, where I get to play a campaign as the Space Marines and then, you know, as a campaign as the orcs and that kind of deal. Like I said, similar to Starcraft. I don't know if it's still out there, but there was a multiplayer demo on Steam. I'd say get it, give it a whirl. Like I said, I don't know if it's still up, but in my opinion, the game is worth the $50 price tag.